What did you see yesterday with Caleb, especially in that first half? 4 yards of offense in the first half.
Well, there was some of that. There was some of that where I was going, I don't know what you're trying to do here. I don't know what the concept is trying to get open. I don't know how this goes together. And so there was some of that where I didn't feel like he had a great chance. Um, and I would say I felt most of that in the first half. I didn't look at it and go, "Oh man, Caleb's not seeing it or not playing well," as much as I thought, there's not a lot there for him. There's not a lot of opportunities there for him. Made some more plays in the second half and did some things. But again, it just doesn't seem like it's building and growing offensively and being able to really create some easy opportunities for their young quarterback. And that's part of the deal, and especially when you have a young guy, is want to try to do your best to get him some easy completions and some easy opportunities. And again, not that coaches aren't trying to do that all the time, but it's just tough when you go through a game and there's not very many of those at all.
There are a couple clips out there, and there's even one you could see in a replay during the game where there's like 4 or even 5 targets on the same side. Is that ever okay? And I don't know if that's what you're talking about at all, but those have jumped out even to the
Yeah,
novice eye.
yeah, there was a couple of those where there was a bunch of guys in the same area. And yeah, you kind of go, what are we doing here? Why, because spacing is the key to everything. So it doesn't mean you can't have four guys on one side. That can be, you can still have a quality concept with four guys on one side, but there has to be proper spacing. You have to be in positions where, where you're creating a conflict for the defense and you're pulling a defender. And so, as you mentioned that, there was one play where they ran basically three hooks to one side, and then they put the back kind of going out to the flat on that side too. And you're like, what? The back's going right to where, right into the zones where these other guys are. These other guys are sitting at 5 yards and the back's at 2 yards. And you're just sitting there going, why is the back on that side? It makes no sense. It doesn't complement anything. And it makes it easy because one defender can cover one of the hooks and the flat at the same time. So you're defeating the purpose of trying to put pressure on the defense and force them to cover the whole field. So, that was, that just one of a few that I saw in the game where I just scratched my head going, why is the back on that side? What are you doing with him? And so, I'm very big on that if you watch any of my breakdowns is having a reason for everything and having an understanding of why everything complements everything else. And, how this does put pressure on the defense and how it forces the defense to cover as much ground as possible is so vital. So, some of that can simply be a wide receiver on the outside. You got to force an outside release. You got to go to the sideline and pull a defender with you, worst case scenario. So you open up a window, to the inside that gives your quarterback a better chance. And then when you cheat it and you go inside, the eyes of the cornerback are there and you squeeze the hole and you make everything harder on the quarterback. So, just a simple example of how everything is vital in terms of creating that spacing, forcing the defense to cover that ground, and then at the end of the day, helping to make it as easy as possible for your quarterback because the game's not easy to play at that position.
Kurt, it's a weird place that the Bears are at. And look, Speaks and I were both advocating for Thomas Brown to get an opportunity as the interim head coach. I think that the guy is an interesting guy, and I look forward to seeing what he continues to do. But is it possible that all of us, and the Bears included, got the part wrong where the best thing for Caleb would have been for him to stay put, considering that he had just jumped into the role of offensive coordinator? And from your experience, what are the demands of the head coach, and how does that then affect what he might be able to do in the offensive rooms?
Yeah, I think, the first thing that we know, or at least we've kind of seen, or it seems that there's evidence of, is that some guys are great coordinators and not great head coaches. Some guys are able to be a head coach and call plays. Other guys aren't able to handle all of that. But for any quarterback, I think one thing I realized when, guys that were in the offensive room became head coaches, or the head coaches were, primarily the offensive guy, is that it was hard for them to be able to spend all the time with the quarterback that they normally would if they were a coordinator. Because when you're a coordinator or a quarterback coach or whatever that is, you're in every single meeting with the quarterback. So you're going over everything and you're able to talk to him about every nuance of what you're trying to do, as opposed to being able to stick your head in here or maybe be in this meeting or maybe have to talk to him on the sideline in practice and all of these things, because you have all these other responsibilities that you have to take care of. And so, to me, one of the biggest things that I always loved was, being able to talk to my coordinator and go, why? What are we thinking? What if this happens? And being able to go through those things, whenever they came up, or if I saw something on film, to have the access to always call them, or, get them on the phone, or have them, be there to kind of go over this stuff and spend that time with them. And when a guy becomes the head coach, there's so many more responsibilities of, just the media responsibilities, having to figure out who's healthy on both sides, and, who's going to be up this week and how we're going to do this, and situational football and all those things that you have to prepare for that aren't just offense and aren't just, helping your quarterback to be successful. So I definitely think there can be something to Caleb having that voice being there all the time, instead of, throwing more responsibilities on someone's plate where they don't get a chance to do that. Because obviously when he took over, I'm not sure what changed. I say it all the time, that the plays look very much the same as what they were before, but something seemed to change when he was the OC in terms of, the freedom by which Caleb played, and made plays and attacked down the field and seemed to play free. And so, that seemed to be a good thing. Again, I don't want to just throw everything in the San Francisco game and say, oh, well, now that's all out the window, as opposed to bad game or San Francisco played well or any of those things. But that could be something, that plays out, is like, okay, all of a sudden now this voice is a different voice. And now, what I was doing and what language we were speaking together that was really working, now I've got to adjust that again because, there's somebody else in my ear primarily or most of the time.
He's the Hall of Famer, Kurt Warner. He joins Spiegel and Holmes on The Score every Monday at 3 o'clock. So here's what the safety, Talanoa Hufanga, said after the game when Brad Biggs walked across to the visiting or the home locker room and asked him what they wanted to do about Caleb. And Hufanga said, for us, it was making him uncomfortable. I hate to say that because he's a friend of mine. You never want to give a rookie quarterback something easy when what he sees is what he gets. So for us, it was late rotations. It was coming out from depth and getting deep, and sometimes just holding a look when he maybe thought we were going to move into something else. You got to change it around. You have to stay on your toes, and making him just think made him hold the ball a little bit more. That helped our pass rush get home. What do you think about that from an all-pro safety about a rookie quarterback, Kurt?
I think it all makes sense. I mean, you want to do that with every quarterback. You want to get them to think and hold the ball and question if what they're seeing before the snap is what they're seeing after the snap. But again, we've talked about it all year long. So many of the concepts that Chicago runs is not coverage based. And so you holding a coverage longer doesn't really affect me if I'm reading something pure progression. I'm going over to see if number one's open, and then I'm going to see if number two's open, no matter where the safeties are or what they're doing. So yeah, again, in theory, that sounds really good, but it depends on what exactly Caleb does within those plays. I mean, does he eliminate things quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Does he see coverage and say, oh, 1 and 2 are dead that's not something that I've seen from Caleb. I've
See
seen
what
him.
I was trying to figure out, Kurt. Like, it sure felt like he was holding it longer yesterday. So I was like, all right, well, maybe this is what he's talking about. But did it feel like he was holding it longer, and why? I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know.
Well, I mean, holding it longer again. So much of it depends on where you start your eyes and are your first or second guys open? So like if it is pure progression and they're taking away 1 and 2, you're going to be holding the ball longer. If 1 and 2 come open, now you're going to be able to get the ball out sooner. And so, but if somebody changes a coverage, no question that, just movement of guys can make a quarterback go, oh, thought he was going to be open. Now he's not open, or maybe he's not open. And so, yeah, all that stuff makes you hesitate. But like I said, if you're just coming out looking at a receiver to see if he's open, it's not as much coverage based as, so for instance, when I played, everything I wanted to do was based on coverage. So I needed to see what the safeties were doing. I needed to understand what the corners were doing on the outside, who was playing flat coverage, all of that stuff. So, trying to hold these things as long as you possibly could make it harder on me in doing that. And so that's what they're going to try to do. But it's just not the way Chicago plays. It's not what they're asking Caleb to do right now, is read the coverage and go, from a primary on the right side to a primary on the left side based on whether they rotate or not. That's not what they're asking him to do. I thought San Francisco just played well. I thought they played aggressive. And that's another thing that makes it really hard on a quarterback, is when a team plays what we call downhill. And San Francisco, just in nature as a defense, likes to play this way. And so they like to squat on the back end. They like to jump things. They like to attack the line of scrimmage and force you to hold the ball and get it over the top of them. And so that condenses the field, and that makes, every throw harder or more condensed if you can't stretch the field and get any big plays. And Chicago didn't get any big plays in this game. They didn't get anything to stretch that defense. So that defense just kept playing downhill, and getting pressure on Caleb. And anytime you have a defense that can do that, and you don't have the ability to push the ball down the field, that's another thing that makes it a lot harder on an offense.
Our segment with Kurt Warner is brought to you by Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. It's also brought to you by Plumbers 911, plumbing emergency call, plumbing professionals, 24/7 at 1-833-PLUM-911. Kurt, we have seen Caleb not throw an interception in a really long time, which is great, I think. But there have also been some sacks on third down. And I wonder, how do you view this? Because the binary is no turnovers equals good, right? But is there a way to is there anyone who would view it and say maybe that means he's not taking chances that he should or you would want him to take in the throws? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm completely opposite of what the national narrative is that everybody likes to look at touchdown passes and interceptions. And that determines whether a quarterback is good, because that's, the number one thing that you look at when it comes to quarterback rating and all of this stuff is that. And specifically, how many interceptions do you throw? I've stated it on here numerous times. I won an MVP throwing 22 interceptions in a season. I always felt the aggressiveness by which you play, and the great quarterbacks in this league push the envelope and push the ball down the field and threaten the defense that thinks and worries about, are they going to score a touchdown on this play? Is Kurt going to take a shot down the field? And yes, he's going to throw 1 or 2 that we're going to have an opportunity to get every game. We better make those 1 or 2, because he's going to make 10 other plays that'll be the difference in the game. And that was my mindset when I played. And I think the best quarterbacks in this league play with that mindset. Of course, I didn't want to throw interceptions, but I played with the mindset that they're going to have to worry about me. Like, they're going to have to worry that I'm going to take every throw, and that on every snap, we got a chance to score a touchdown. And my mindset is throw a touchdown pass, not throw a check down. And so I don't look at like when I look at interceptions, I look at the why of the interceptions. Like if I'm just going back and just launching the ball up into, stupid situations and throwing interceptions, that's always going to hurt you. But if you're making educated, reads and decisions on why you're doing it, and you make a bad throw, or the defense makes a good play, or even if you make a bad decision every once in a while, playing with that mentality, if you're a good player, it's going to calculate to big plays. And to me, you need big plays, what I call chunk plays, to win in the National Football League. To take 10 and 12 play drives with no big plays and assume that you're not going to make a negative play, you're not going to have a holding call, or you're not going to take a sack, or you're not going to miss a throw, it's really, really hard no matter who you are and no matter who you're playing. It's a tough way to live. So big plays are a necessity, in my opinion, to be a really good offense. So you have to have a quarterback that is willing to make those big plays, to make those chunk plays. And sometimes that means, playing a little riskier, so to speak. Like still every time I threw a ball, I felt I could make the throw. But I knew there were times that, hey, this is going to be a tight throw. Oh, I got to get this over a linebacker, which isn't going to be easy, but I think I can do it. And so you take those chances instead of, I'm just going to take the check down because that guy dropped a little bit, or, that corner is over there, so let me just throw the flat every time. And then the corner is going to do that every time, and they're going to bait you into just playing check down football. And to me, it's not winning football in this league. So you have to be smart. But I always said, like, man, if I made 2 mistakes in a game and they happen to be 2 interceptions, that's still a really good game. Like, I don't care, because that means I'm making really good decisions on the other plays, and we're getting a lot of plays off of it. So, that year that I threw 22 interceptions, we went 14-2. And, we were the best offense in the league, and, we threw for about and again, it's that mindset. And it's really kind of the mindset that I think we've seen from Caleb over the last couple of weeks. There was a number of plays that I'm not sure were the right read by him. But he said, I can make that throw. And he would drive that throw in there between bodies and hit those big plays. And that's when, you guys are all sitting there going, okay, this looks different. This is a different Caleb Williams that we're seeing. And it's exciting football. And it gave you a chance, even though you didn't win those games, it gave you a chance to win those games. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, being smart with it, but trusting in your ability. And when you see something, not hesitating, not holding the ball, but ripping it, whether it becomes an interception or whether it becomes a big play.
That's a great answer. And it's kind of, you watch a 44-42 game with the Bills and the Rams, and you're like, those guys aren't afraid to throw the ball down the field. And and that's the one day that'll be in Chicago. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate you.
You got it, guys. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
It's Kurt Warner. He's fantastic. You're listening to him on a Plumbers 911 Football Monday, presented by Bosch Power Tools and Busey Bank. I feel like that's the type of soundbite that gets aggregated.
I mean, like,
that was really good.
Are you worried that Caleb is playing too safe?
I'm not. I kind of like the fact that he's like, I'm not gonna just put this ball in danger in games that are close. But I do wonder, like, what's the, and I don't have the answer to this. Like, if we had 2 hours with Kurt Warner, maybe we could get to it. But is it better to tell him for the next 4 weeks?
Go for it. Go for it.
We don't care, man.
Yeah.
Like, if you feel like if you want to figure out if you can make some of these throws in this league.
Yeah, probably for the next 4 weeks. I think that's true. Because there's a thing where he's talking about how he's accepting sacks on third down, man. They had 4 straight third down sacks. And the way he talked about it after the game was like, well, I mean, yeah, sometimes you take those. You don't want to do it on first and second, but it sounds like he's rationalizing it a little bit.
Well, he is, because one of the things that they always tell him is end a series in a kick.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's okay. And most of these coaches have become really risk averse.
And he's proud of his low interception numbers in college. And his low interception numbers, it's certainly this streak. He's proud of that. But you do want him to take some aggressive shots down the field. You do want that as well. I wonder, some of the aggressive shots down the field early in the year that were so inaccurate, there's a lot that were inaccurate, is there some safety there where he's making sure not to put it in harm's way, making sure that it doesn't turn into a pick. So, I mean, you look at some of these throws that Allen and Stafford made in that game, man.
Stafford does it all the time.
All the time.
And it's why he's going to go to the Hall of Fame.
Because he's like, oh, go ahead and make a play. You're good at this. And Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are both very good at this.
Yes, they
but
are.
Josh Allen made a throw to Mac Hollins for a touchdown yesterday that was just like over a defender's shoulder. And it's like just the happenstance of him not turning around. And it's a touchdown. And it's a scary throw to make, but he's not afraid to do it.